Hi, so in this video we're going to be looking at interested parties and trying to work out exactly what they are and how you go about determining them. Hi, so in this video we're going to be looking at interested parties, which I believe is section 4.2 of the standard. So we're going to have a look at the page. Hi, so in this video we're going to be looking at section 4.2, which is understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. So when it says interested parties, what they're looking for is actually stakeholders. So wherever you see the term interested parties in the standard, you can assume basically what it's talking about is stakeholders. And what it's doing in this section is talking about the interested parties that are relevant to the quality management system. But I'd say that every single stakeholder within a company is going to be relevant to the quality management system to some extent or another. So I would almost ignore that part and just assume it's every stakeholder for the company. And then B talks about the requirements of interested parties that are relevant to the quality management system. So that's really what you want to be looking at, I think. So it's identifying who the stakeholders are and what the requirements of the quality management system or company are. And then it goes on to say how you can monitor these, review the information about their interested parties and the relevant requirements. So on that final bit, once you've done these two bits, which I'll go into some more detail on how you can do that in a second, on this bit, what we do is we monitor the interested parties or stakeholders every quarter. So during a management review, we go through who those interested parties are. We look at the documentation which has been created in order to meet the requirements of 4.2, and then we review that and update it if needed. That's part of the management review process. So we go ahead and look at one of the easiest ways of determining and laying out a document in order to comply with 4.2. So basically, one of the ways that I think is going to be the easiest way for people to really kind of get into identifying who their stakeholders are and going through the process of updating their information is to look at using the Mendeley stakeholder mapping method. So basically what it says is that you need to identify who your stakeholders are, determine what their level of interest within your organisation is, and the level of power they've got to exert influence over your organisation. So the low power and low interest, they go in segment A, high power, high interest D, and then depending on whereabouts they are in this stakeholder mapping process, you then need to deal with them in a specific way. So this actual layout or information is taken from the BSI quality diploma learning material. But if you Googled Mendeley stakeholder matrix, you can quickly find exactly the same layout and information which goes into what you should do depending on where the particular stakeholder sits within that matrix. So box A, it's saying minimum effort, and that's really because these people are low level of interest, low power, so they're not really going to have a major impact on your company day to day, and they're not going to be that interested in what's going on within your company on a day-to-day basis, but there's going to be some interest. B, you need to keep informed. So B is going to be high levels of interest, so they're going to want to know what's happening, but they're not going to be able to really do anything to your company or really exert any kind of major influence because their power is going to be quite low. Box C, they're going to have low level interest, but they're going to have high amounts of power, so they're going to be people who could potentially do something or have a major impact on the company, depending on what's happening, what's going on. And then box D is going to be high power, high interest, and these are going to be the key players, the ones you want to really kind of get involved in running the organisation or share information with them on a regular basis. So we talk about a couple of different examples, and we'll go through and look at the one I've kind of laid out. We talk about a couple of examples of, say, D. You're going to almost certainly have a bank. Every company is going to deal with a bank to some extent, whether that's because the company's doing really well and it wants to grow and it wants to take out some money to facilitate the growth, so commercial mortgage, things like that, or whether the company's doing relatively badly, so they're going to need financial support to kind of continue, so extension of overdrafts or loans. So the bank is going to have a really high level of interest in whether or not your going concern and whether or not you're going to be a good credit risk for the bank. And they're going to have quite a lot of power. So if you are doing well, they could potentially hold you back by not giving you the finance to continue to grow. Or if you're doing badly, they might hold you back because they don't want to loan to you because you're too much for credit risk. So banks are going to have high level power and high level interest. But then you've got people like, for example, BSI, who are going to have potentially, you could say a high level of power because they could potentially take away your ISO 9001 or whatever accreditation you have. But they're going to have a lower level of interest on a day-to-day basis, so they're not going to be needing to be kept up to date. They're only really going to come in if you're, say, in my company, every, say, 6 months to review the company. So level of interest is going to be pretty low. So you're not going to need to engage with them and talk to them on a regular basis. The power could be potentially quite high, and for us, if we lost 9001, it'd be quite a significant detrimental impact on the company. And the other point to make is that people can move. Stakeholders aren't just stationary; they can move from different boxes and different segments. So it might be, for example, you've got health and safety executive, if you're a company within the UK, who are going to have, on a day-to-day basis, a relatively low level of interest because they're not going to want to really know what's going on or need to know what's going on within the company. But they've got quite a lot of power, so they can stop you working, they can close the sites, they can implement quite significant fines. But if you had an accident or you had to report an injury or a near miss or something that was wrong within the company, their level of interest is going to go from low to high, and their level of power is going to stay high. So they're going to go from a C to a D, and they could be into your company investigating, making site visits, closing you down, looking at machinery, putting prohibition notices on you. So that's just a little example of how stakeholders can move throughout the different boxes. So that's something to bear in mind when you're looking to identify who they are. And what I would say also is this is subjective. There is no right or wrong answer. It's all down to how you perceive it, how your organisation perceives it, and also how you go about justifying it. So if you can go through these, lay it out, and then have a good reason why that particular stakeholder is in each segment, that's something that any auditor is going to want to see. So if we have a look at a worked example, or example for what I use for my firm, we can see here in the document that I've titled Interested Parties Register, the various interested parties for my organisation. So what we've got there is bank, which we've talked about. So for us, the bank is really key. We meet with them on a regular basis. They request financial information, management accounts, audited accounts on a periodical basis, and we talk to them, have a really good relationship with the bank manager. So if we did ever need money to grow or anything else, he knows what's going on, and he knows whether or not we're in a financially secure situation, which we are. So he'd be happy to lend us money if we needed it. So the bank is a key player for us, as it would be for any other company. So what I've done within this document is said who the interested party are, is the nature of their interest, and then how we go about communicating with them. So by doing it in this way, it helps to kind of meet the some of the requirements of a later section of the standard, which talks about communication, how you go about communicating with customers, but also with stakeholders as well. We've talked about the HSE, so they're going to be interested in whether or not we're operating safely. They're not going to want to have regular communication with you, but it might be they visit or carry out inspections on a irregular basis, but it could still happen. And also, depending on the industry you're in, it might be on a more regular basis. So competitors for us are going to be a stakeholder. So we supply a lot of our competitors, and they also supply us. But of course, we do also compete for the same jobs. So we're going to be interested in how they're doing, and they're going to be interested in how we're doing. So we talk to them, talk to customers, and get information, try and gather information about what's going on within the industry. We also look at suppliers, so they're going to be interested in whether or not we're going to be ordering any more from them, whether or not we can pay our debts to them, those sorts of things. But also they're going to be looking at whether we're good, whether we're creditworthy, because if they're supplying us with material, it might be on 30, 60, 90 days, steel material, 30, 60, 90 days, they're going to want to know that we can pay it back, so they may be taking out credit against us just in case something happens. So we continually talk to credit insurance firms as well, so they can be assured that we're a financially secure company, and that's something that a lot of firms will be doing, certainly within the steel industry, but also within other industries as well. Customers are going to be another key one, pretty much for every company. They're going to be a key stakeholder, so they're going to want to know that you can supply them with whatever it is they want in a timely basis, to good quality, and that you've got the internal knowledge and ability and competence to be able to satisfy them. Employees, of course, another key one, are going to want to know that the company is doing well, what they can do to help the company. They want to know if there's potential for growth within the company. So it's important there to engage with them on a regular basis, but also determine which information you feel they need to know and they don't need to know, if there is anything like that. So they're another key one. And then for us, we've got trade associations. They're going to know that you're meeting the standards of any rules or regulations that are within the industry. You represent the industry to a good standard. And then we've got BSI, who are our auditors for 9001. And they're going to want to know that we're meeting the standard and ensuring the satisfaction is high. So what we've got in this document then is basically everything I think you need to meet the requirements of 4.2. So if we have a look at 4.2, what it's asking is to determine their potential effect on the organisation. So we've said that within that document, talk about who they are, talk about what it is they're interested, why we feel they're interested in the organisation, and then go through how we go about communicating with them. And as I said, for us, what we do is review that on a quarterly basis when we have our management review meetings, and then review that information and update that on a regular basis. So I'd say by using this sort of layout, it allows you to kind of meet the requirements of 4.2. As I said, you can also use the stakeholder mapping method, which will allow you to determine where they are within this. But then I think you still need to go further than this layout and actually talk about who they are and how you go about communicating with them, I think, to really kind of satisfy any auditors you might have. So that's effectively it for 4.2. So if anyone has any questions, then please ask in the comments below. We will be doing more videos on 9001, but also other parts of management of a business and business administration. So if anyone's got any questions about these, then please do get in touch. Thank you.